Hello and welcome back to the podcast. And I have got one of my kindred spirits from up north on today. And if you thought I did no nonsense, she does no nonsense to a whole other level. So Elizabeth, thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Dean. Lovely to see you.
So you have a fingers in lots and lots of pies, from getting companies investment, non-exec directorships. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I built a technology company that was listed on AIM. I started the business from my bedroom with £1. I had no prior business experience. I got no technology experience, but I was fiercely determined to solve a problem that I'd seen in some major financial services organisations that I'd worked in previously. And I was pretty audacious at that time, age 26. So I decided I'd set up a consultancy to fix the problem. After doing 2 or 3 of these projects, worked out actually it's the same problem in all of them, or the solution is the same. The problems emanate differently, but it's the same problem. So we need a piece of technology to fix this, because I'm not very good at doing the same thing over and over again. So I invented a technology product that then went on to create a new technology market space, actually, that's now today worth $3 billion, and that is the back office workforce optimization space. So built this business, listed it on AIM. We traded in 50 countries. I've got 150 people living in 5 of them. And then 2017, we get acquired quite aggressively by an American software business. So I then found myself unemployed at 58 and wondering what to do. So I decided, I was invited actually to go help a startup, and reminded me of all the problems that I'd gone through and the mistakes that I'd made. And the lessons that we learned. You learn your best from the mistakes that you make. So having learned a lot of mistakes, I realised I was actually old enough and wise enough and still got enough energy to help others to go on the path that I'd been on, do it faster, do it better. And that's what I've been doing since, actually. So for the last 7 years, I've been working in startup and scale-up land, helping them to grow, helping them to get investment, helping them to make the same mistakes that I made faster or learn from them quicker, whatever words you want to put to it. But I just bring sage advice to the board table. And as you say, I speak very plainly. So, from the Midlands, we have no filter. We say it as it is. And if it's shit, it's shit. Excuse my French. But if wherever it is, we just got to fix it and move on. So now that's what I do now. So I'm helping companies to grow.
So you didn't get tempted to kind of cocktails on the beach after you finished then?
No, couldn't do it. In fact, I had a few months not doing anything, and it didn't work for me mentally. I love to be active. I'm a nosy person. I like to learn. I now work with 10 clients one-to-one at a time, and I'm really deep into their businesses. I work with others, in workshops, in webinars, and I'm learning every day, and I love learning. I love helping people. So, I shall go into my grave shouting something about somebody's business plan. That's my plan anyway. Burnout, don't fade out is the motto. That's what I'm going to do.
So we're going to have like a mix of people listening and watching this, from bigger businesses through to, one-person businesses. Yeah. But given that you're seeing lots of businesses all the time, what would you say is the number one mistake you see business owners make?
Well, the phrase that I use all the time, Dean, is what got you here won't get you there. And I think just trying to run harder and faster, doing the same thing that you've always done, doesn't actually improve anything. I mean, you and I had a private conversation about, you get to a certain size and you're like, is this what it's all about? I don't want to do it like this anymore. Something has to give, something has to change. So I think it's the assumption that you can just do more of what you're already doing and things will grow. I think that would be the first thing. I think the second thing is actually, you never see a line in a business plan that says personal development training or leadership training for CEOs and founders. And, this was also true in the work that I did in my business as well. 85% of management in this country is not trained. It's been promoted into that job, or it's by virtue of starting a company, you end up as the CEO. without necessarily the skill to be able to do it. So not learning and not changing and developing and bringing new ideas to the table is probably the biggest mistake, I would say.
So I read this quote, and it's kind of a bullshit quote, but there's kind of I think there's an element of truth, and I wanted to get your take on it. And it's something Sam Altman says, the OpenAI guy.
Yeah.
And he says, a surprising amount of the time, you can bend the world to your will. And it sounds like bullshit, but I've met a lot of people who seem to have a lot of grit and determination. And when something seems to be slightly impossible or never going to happen, because they kind of can be that bull in the china shop, seem to end up managing to make things happen.
Yes.
What do you think about that? I mean, I know it's a little bit bullshitty kind of woolly quote, but there's some truth to it, I think.
I would say he's got a very nice way of saying something that I've always believed, which is there is no such word as can't. And, I've never let anything hold me back, to be honest, or get in my way. And if I hear the word no, or I find a barrier, then I've got to go under it, over it, round it, find a way, crash through it, whatever it is. I think if you're fiercely determined and have a very clear vision of what it is that you're trying to do and you really want it, and it taps into your reason why, then you will achieve it. You will find a way. So I think he's right. You can bend the world to your way. You just got to have the will to do it.
And have you ever had one of those moments? Is there like a moment that sticks with you where it's like a do or die moment?
Dean, I'm a woman and I'm a middle-aged woman. So I was thinking something this morning on a dog walk, actually. There was something on LinkedIn about age. How do you admit that you're over 50? And I was like, what's that all about? I'm 64. I can't change the fact, but I can deny expectation. And I'm like, I may be 64, but so what? I'm going to do it anyway. So I would say virtually every day there's a challenge that we have to face, but you have to get on and keep going. So, I mean, let's just sort of summarise what they were. I mean, I was asked to leave school, so that's a polite way of saying, you don't fit here, do you? I've had a few of those moments in my life, so that happened. Didn't have a particularly good childhood, so you're fiercely determined to find a way. Told by bank manager, no, you can't have a bank account, you're not going to be able to do what you think, young lady. I'm like, yes, I will. So I did. Told by this organisation, that won't work, you can't do this, la la la. Every time you hear those words, it's just like, yes, you can. There's always a way. You can always find a way.
It does feel like you have to be slightly unreasonable to get anywhere in life, doesn't it?
What did my old chairman used to say? You were bloody impossible, my old chairman. Because you finally get your appraisal about 5 years afterwards, where you've worked with very polite chairman, and he was like, and he said, you are bloody hard work. And I said, he said, yes, it's in fact bloody impossible. I was like, okay. But that was it. If I wanted to do something, I wanted to do it, and I just do it.
Do you think, though, that's a trait of people who, start businesses? They have to be slightly I can look back at some of the jobs I've done, and I got some really good stuff done, but I did annoy people at the same time.
Well, yeah, I think I spend my life annoying at people, actually. But I think you have to be fiercely determined. If you have a chink of giving up, your self-conscious finds into that. You've actually just got to blank it all out and just blinkers on, keep going. And I'm at my worst leadership when I'm in a bad situation. One of my team members said that to me, actually. He said, there's a couple of times that we nearly went bust in my business, and many squeaky bum moments, I call them, where the cash was really tight, even though we were listed. Lehman Brothers collapse, owing us, £250,000, blah, 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 all the other things that happen. And I'm pitching and I get on, and he'd say, do you know what it's like in your slipstream? And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, when you're fiercely determined, he said, it's like being in a snowstorm. It's all coming at us and we don't really know what it is. I had to stop and learn a different leadership style, but that is the determination. I was not going to let that business go down. I was going to keep that business going and surviving, come what may.
And I guess nothing really trains you for those moments where it is that
No.
uncertain moment. I mean, I've never had one on the scale of where you were in a listed company and all that kind of stuff. But I can remember when the pandemic came and it was like, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do here, but I have to make decisions.
Yeah. And just hope it's right. Well, I also believe that there's no such thing as a perfect business plan. And I see, sometimes pages and pages of documents of business plans and, forecasts that go out for 5 years. And I go, well, that's bloody fiction, because who knows what's going to happen in the next half an hour, particularly in SME. Bigger businesses are like tankers. They take a while to turn. But small businesses are being buffeted left, right and centre all the time. So you have to be able to pivot in the moment and make the right decision. And if it's the wrong decision, you've got to pivot again. And that's the only thing you can do. Or you can sit there and go, I've got to wait for everything to be perfect and have all the information and then be able to decide. But perfect never comes. And that's you've just got to go with your gut and trust that it's the right thing. I mean, pandemic was a very unique time for a lot of businesses. Unfortunately, I think there was a lot of people in the same boat at the same time. So you could actually go, well, what is everybody else doing? You could sort of take some reference from it. But there's many times, as you know, when things uniquely happen to you and you just got to deal with it in the moment. But perfect business plans, long-term view. Yes, a direction. We're heading to Edinburgh, but we haven't mapped out every single step. Let's get on the journey and we'll pivot and take the best route as we go.
And just on that note, obviously, we'll just talk UK for a minute.
Yeah.
We can leave the politics out of it if you want, but what do you think of where the UK is at the moment from a business environment?
Well, let me share with you what my clients are saying to me and other people, because obviously I talk about this on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn is probably the most depressing place to be at this moment in time. Everybody's moaning about what is going on, but everybody's moaning about it in real life too. And I think business always bounces back. Business always finds a way to rise back to the top. But I think this time, people are actually feeling, where do I go? What's the angle here? How do I get through this? And I do think there's a lot of pessimism and negativity that's affecting a lot of people. And a lot of people that I know are actually going, it's time to sell now. Had enough. Let's do something else. And that's the first time I would say I've ever experienced that in my whole life in business.
Why do you think, I'm just going to say what I think. I think if you want to grow the economy, you don't start taxing companies or businesses, employers' national insurance, because it literally just, puts bills onto businesses like a tax bills for employing people.
Yeah.
So I do think there's quite a lot of nervousness about that, because we're literally, as we're recording this, it's like a couple of weeks away from kicking in.
Yeah, well, decision making is definitely slow to non-existent at the moment. So in terms of investment spend, that isn't happening. So people are thinking twice about that. They are either not hiring or downsizing, pausing, taking a breath and working out what they want to do, or whether they can afford to do it moving forward, see what comes. I think there's nervousness around the next budget statement, or whatever we want to call it, the spring statement, whatever badge we put on it now. It's a potential next tax that's coming. Everybody wants to wait and see what's happening. So everything's just stalling. And it's tough. I think it's tough out there.
I read a post this morning, and it was about a town in Scotland that has got council tax has gone up 16%. And, I don't mind paying more money towards taxes if things get better. But I kind of have this feeling that, I'm sorry, civil servants, I just feel like that most of our public services are now a money pit.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm not saying, the NHS, my daughter works in the NHS, but it's like, it doesn't matter how much money you put in. If this was a business, you'd be going, what's going wrong here? Because you're putting all this money in and not getting anything better out.
100%. I don't know whether you know, dear, my brother passed away just before Christmas. In the hospital that he was in, they were making redundancies of frontline people. And that was after, the 40 billion, 20 billion, 10 billion black hole, whatever it was. It kept going up, didn't it? Do you see, I went down then. It was it's only more palatable the less it got. But it started at 10, then it went 20, then it went 40. So we've got a 40 billion black hole and we raise all this tax and we're making redundancies at frontline in the NHS. And you're like, really? What's going on?
Yeah.
Where's it going? You know, and then the NHS is saying the money you gave us is gone. Well, where's it gone? You know, nobody's seen any improvements. It just feels hard, but I still have this determination in my gut, which is I'm still going to succeed. I'm still going to grow, come what may. And I think there's a lot of, my grandmother would call it bloody mindedness. You know, they think there's a lot of bloody mindedness and fierce determination to succeed, come what may. Moan about it, but keep going, you know.
Yeah, you kind of have to like defy the odds, really, don't you?
Yeah,
You have to
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
That.
Yeah, but defiance should be my middle name. So, you know, that's been me since I was young. You know what I mean? If somebody said no, I did the opposite anyway. No such word as can't. Well, I'm doing it. Watch me. You know, that type of thing. So you just, if you've lived your life like that, you don't stop. And I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs the same. But equally, I see others who are saying enough is enough.
So what do you make of the whole AI piece at the moment? I mean, it's quite confusing for businesses because literally every day there's something new.
Yeah.
And what do you think? I mean, where do you sit on it all?
Well, first of all, I love AI. Actually, let's step back a bit. I've lived through several tech revolutions, okay? So when I started my business, it was only mainframe computing. There were no desktops, there were no networks, and so on and so forth. So I've gone through all of these tech cycles. And every tech thing that's come along, particularly in B2B, it's been, the tech's going to come along and the jobs are going to go, and they never have.
Yeah.
So I do think there's this sort of big fear about AI that jobs will go. I think jobs will change.
Yeah.
And I also think AI is very exciting. I mean, you use AI. I use AI every day. I love it. You know, as a middle-aged female, sometimes my brain gets in a bit of a fog. I just have a little chat with my chat GPT, very friendly like, we become very close friends. And he or she, it says, ta-da, here's the answer. And I go, don't like that one, but I like this one instead. And away I go. Do you know what I mean? It's just a prompt and a help and an enabler, right the way through to, you know, bots making cars, which have been around for ages. Robots have been making cars for ages. So I think there's a lot of hysteria about it and fear about it that we should embrace it rather than be concerned. I think we should be concerned about cyber threat with AI for sure. I think that's, you know, cyber is one of the sectors that is booming, and it's booming because of AI. So I think, it should be embraced. I think every business, I see a lot of pitch decks for investment, and I do see AI thrown in a lot and it's AI this and it's AI that. And when you drill into it, it isn't really. It's old technology, old automations, old algorithms with AI added to it. Investors can see through that. But I think every business should be able to say, this is how we're embracing AI. And I think I know other people who are saying, I don't want to hire people, I want to use AI. Yeah, so there is there's a few different angles to it.
I do wonder though, I mean, I use AI every day, and my chat GPT is, I'm kind of like, there's so many different AI tools, I just need to stick with one. I'm sure there's better ones. Yeah. So I use ChatGPT for everything, but like literally I chat to it about what do we think about this? It's like a little mate.
Mine is my mate. Well, some people call their ChatGPT Chad. So some of them are giving it, and mine hasn't got a name. But I have actually asked its opinion on something. And when I've read something and I thought, I can't quite work out whether there's a negative in there that I'm missing. And I've said, ChatGPT, what do you think about that? And he'd come back with he obviously decided he's a bloke, have you seen, has slipped into his he. And he will come back with an opinion. So my daughter talks to hers as well. So she has chats, but she's training her chat GPT to be very edgy in the stuff that she produces. So it's quite interesting.
I've programmed mine and it swears at me and everything.
She hasn't got swear words, but she has got other things.
It'll say things like, Dean, you're fucking overthinking things again.
Yeah, I think mine was trying to tell me that, but it didn't use the F word.
Yeah, because I literally talk to it as I think. I basically drop things in there.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are kind of worried about, will AI make us dumb? And I think actually, like any tool, it will make some people dumb and some people smart. Because for me, I feel like since I've been using AI, I think better.
Yes, I agree with you. Because you have to think about what you're asking it to start with. And then when it gives you answers, you have to think about whether you really like that answer. You might not always. But I mean, I had a massive sort of efficiency gain the other day. It just so happened 2 or 3 clients had the same issue all at the same time, which was with their commission plan. And, in these times when we've got to push forward as much as we can, there are 2 things we can do: cut costs, grow sales. All wanted to look at their commission plans. So I've got 3, and I've got a best practice one that I use over here, and I've got another old one over there. Old money, I'd have printed them all off and I'd have gone through like really slowly. I just scraped them all into ChatGPT and said, merge these together. And it went, and in about 3/4 of an hour, the job was done. Whereas it would have taken me, best part of a day. And you're just like, genius. Clients will go, wow, that was quick. I was like, yeah. So, improved service, job done, fantastic, really. I mean, just great tools to have.
And given that you're kind of working with a lot of people who are getting investment, do you reckon there's going to be, you remember the dot-com boom where there was all these website internet companies flew up? Do you reckon there's going to be that same kind of AI boom?
Already is. Yeah, it's already. I don't think anybody knows. I mean, there's a rule of 10 with most VCs anyway, which is out of 10 companies, 1 or 2 will do really well, a few will carry it through, and there'll be some losses. So I still think, despite all of the DD that's done, there's an element of luck around which are the ones that really fly. I mean, obviously, in hindsight, everyone goes, well, I knew that was going to work, but you don't. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Yeah. But as far as AI is concerned, it's not just about technology that makes a good technology business. It's actually, there's 8 or 9 different things that need to be in place for a business to scale well. Product is one of them. And so, you might have the best product, but if you can't actually get people to use it or buy it or pay for it, it won't necessarily succeed. So I think there's a lot of luck associated with it. So I think there's a lot of spray the money out, but not a dot-com boom in the way that it was, because there's a lot more. Sustainable scaling is the word I'm going to use at the moment, Dave. People are happy to back founders making losses for a short period if they can show a route to profitability, a route to cash generation. So they need to see that there's some resilience down the track, that the business can survive. And it's only really the sort of big, deep tech, maybe med tech type products that need long-term loss investment. Investors are looking for much faster returns. And they're certainly not looking for necessarily the raciness that we had when we had the dot-com boom.
Yeah,
they want that growth, but they want that growth securely. Whereas back then it was, we want the growth at all costs. That's the difference.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be like, if you look at some of the big tech businesses we've got now, you look at them and it's going to be very hard to challenge them.
Yeah.
In that, I read something about, I don't know if it's Apple or Microsoft or Google or one of them, that when a new technology business starts to get traction, they buy it before it can get anywhere. Because they don't want it challenging their own business model.
We don't all need to be rock stars, okay? There's many of us that are happy playing gigs around the country. We don't need to be global rock stars. So, a lot of the founders that I work with want to get to a certain point and get an event or an exit so they can capitalise some cash. They're not all looking to be unicorns or, in fact, interestingly, session a couple of days ago, the audience was asked that, how many of you want to be unicorns? And there was only one hand went up. The majority don't want to be.
So, I mean, we had this conversation before we started recording that I was going up and up and up and was getting bluntly fucked off with doing it, and decided to reinvent the business so that it worked more for what I wanted to do. How many people get into that kind of situation where they kind of lose sight of why they're doing things?
I feel the majority. I feel, whatever, and I go, well, why? What is the goal here? What's the goal for you? And they've forgotten. They've got so hooked into this, I'm doing this, they've forgotten what they're actually doing. And in fact, one client, it actually took him 3 months to work out that he did not want to grow massively. He wanted to have a sustainable business that delivered enough profit for the directors and the founders, looked after his people and enabled him to do his community project. That's all he wanted to do. It took him 3 months to get there because he got so hooked into, I've got to be growing, I've got to be doing this, and I think there's so much hype around what should be happening in businesses. Lots of stuff on LinkedIn about, you write these posts yourself, you should get to 50 million, you need to get to 8 figures a month, whatever. There's all of that noise going around, and so you end up being sucked into that and forget what you really want for yourself. So I would say virtually every founder that I work with has exactly that stage. They get to that stage like, why am I doing this? What's in it for me? But I think the symptoms that get them to that are in every business also, and they were in mine. You start to get to a place where your business starts to hit a ceiling and it's pressure. And it's, people aren't doing what you want them to do. You're not getting the sales as fast as you want them to do. Well, you just can't break through it. What is it? That means you need to change. And I found it at 1 million, 2 million, 4 million. I wouldn't say every time I doubled, but you could look back and see these plateaus where things need to change. And you have to keep reminding yourself, I think, every year, why am I doing this? Am I getting what I want out of it? And be clear about what you want.
Yeah, because for me, it was like I'd attached a certain way of running the business to my goal.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to travel more. I want to enjoy more time. So what I did is, the business must be much bigger, because if it's much bigger, I'll be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so then I found myself having less and less and less time doing stuff I didn't like and feeling more and more out of control. And I was like,
not enjoying
I don't want to do this.
Not enjoying it. Yeah, not enjoying it. Interesting. Had a call with a client this morning, and he's like, "Yeah, I really don't want to work with that group of clients anymore. It's just so hard, and this and that and the other." And he's just said, if I just say to them, "These are my rules, and this is how I want to work now. If you don't want to work with me, please leave." He said, "I actually think my business will be better, because I'll have more time to concentrate on the ones that I do want to." So you're not on your own in that at all.
It's the fear, though, isn't it? The biggest thing is dealing with that fear of, well, if I stop, if I get off this merry-go-round.
Yeah, but I think everything's linked to a number. Everything's linked to numbers, isn't it? I had an investor who, a turnaround that I was doing, and I wanted to put the price up on the product. I wanted to double it because it wasn't bringing in enough margin. And one way to grow sales is actually look at your pricing, increase your price, get rid of your least profitable clients. And it was, well, don't do that, because if you don't manage to convert people and the annual recurring revenue goes down, you fall out of the criteria at which we can actually invest in you. And I was like, okay, so we didn't do it. So we ended up selling this business to a guy who immediately quadrupled the price. And he's active on LinkedIn, and he tells this story. He quadrupled the price, lost some of the ones at the bottom, but as 3 or 4 times increased the revenue that he was actually getting just by making that move. It was the right thing to do. But it was just, it didn't meet this criteria. And I think that's this whole thing of size. We've got to get to this, got to get to that, got to get to that. It's all about size. And it's not, it's actually about outcome that you're looking for. What is it you want?
So you're going to be coming to Growth Titans in Manchester in May.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people are already getting their appetites wet for what you're going to talk about. But do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, well, I think we talked a little bit about it as we've been chatting today. So sustainable scaling is my thing. And that sounds, there are 3 types of businesses. There are businesses that don't want to grow. Believe it or not, we have 5.5 million private companies in this country. 4.1 million of them are one-man operations. They don't employ a single person. And in that group are a good chunk that don't want to grow. And we all know them. They're, the plumbers who want to keep it below the VAT threshold, and they're this and they're that, and they're solopreneurs and they're lifestyle businesses and they're quite happy. Only 1.4 million actually employ people and want to grow, and less than 1% are medium and large enterprises, which is quite rare. What is it that stops people growing? Scaling is hard. If scaling is hard and it's not easy, whatever words we want to use about it, what is it that stops businesses growing? Apart from the ones that choose not to, and some of those end up growing anyway because they're really good. Apart from those, the ones that do struggle with it, and they hit these ceilings and all the rest of it. So what is it we need to do in order to help those businesses grow? So sustainable scaling is what I talk about, and I think it's the foundations for growth for every business, whether you want to scale or not. If you want to get investment or exit of a good value, it's imperative. But every business should put in the foundations for sustainable scaling. And we're going to talk about 9 things that actually help you 9 drivers that help you grow your business or re-energize your business if you've got to a certain level, so that you can actually grow to the next level, create something of value for yourself, which is, I think, really important. Shouldn't forget that. But also make it investable or acquirable if that's what you choose to do. So that's what we're going to talk about.
And that's cool, really, because you think it's a shame. In one sense, you think about those. I know we're focused on the businesses that want to grow, but those 4.4 that are kind of one-man bands. What happens to their business when they're done? Do you know what I mean? It's like there's opportunity there.
Well, they're never done. I mean, I know of lots of one-man operations that can't go on holiday because if they go on holiday, they lose money. Another one got sick. No one to look after it, no one to look after the business, no revenue, those sorts of things. So it's very risky actually to be a one-man operation. And that's why investors won't invest in one-man businesses. They don't like that.
Yeah, because if something happens to the person,
there's no sustainability there. So team is really winning team is obviously one of the drivers, putting in place a winning team. And I think that's where you'd got to when you were frustrated and you got your 60 people. The team that you had got you to where you were. You needed to look again at the team, and that's what you did, and that's what got you through.
Yeah. No, Brill, I'm looking forward to it in Manchester.
Yeah, hopefully so built to scale, built to last. It's a founder's guide to sustainable scaling. That's what we're going to talk about.
Well, I'm going to be sitting in on it, definitely.
Oh, okay.
No, Elizabeth, thanks for coming on. And I know people will love to hear more from you. And you're very prolific in what you share on LinkedIn. So I'm going to get people to go and follow you over there and check you out because you got a lot of experience, and I know of times when you've said stuff on LinkedIn, it's like slapped me in the face and made me think. So
thank you.
I love your posts, and you don't pull any punches, which I like.
No, not at all.
Brill. Thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me, Dean. Look forward to Manchester.